Thank you, Pat. I'll do a test check to see is the old Carlo Bogger accent coming out. Okay, is that fair enough? Normally I do wander, but there's kind of stuff in the way and I'm a bit wobbly. So I stand here. I'm going to plant my 2 feet here and say what I came to say. I'll have to say before I start, it scared the pants off me the day I got the email from Adrienne to say, would you come and keynote for the tribe? But then she had me at creativity, collaboration, computers, practitioner, perspective, 5 of my favourite words. So I kind of said, yeah, I better come and do that. So I'm going to welcome you all with the words, the immortal words of the one and only who says, how's it going there, everybody? From Cork, Dundalk, New York, Garda Herc, and Glenamaddy. So you know who that is. Is anyone from Kildare here? Please go and tell Christy we had him at CES. I think it's the most inclusive welcoming for a gathering in Ireland for the diaspora, people who are here from away, people who are from away. He got all 4 provinces. And just do me one favour, spend 2 seconds each. Just turn to the one beside you, turn to your neighbour, check where they came from. Now, not room 347 at the Sheraton or the Hudson Bay. Which bit of Ireland did they come from today? Just do that before we start. Right, so that's enough. Hello. Right, let's start with the truth. I'm not here to speak any great philosophical things. I'm here to speak with the tribe, on behalf of the tribe, just speak my mind to the 5 words that was decided would be the theme for this year. But just have a little read of one thing I found when I started. I will also must out that I'm studying at the moment with Keith Johnson and Richard Millwood and the Christ crew in the School of Education in Trinity. So I've been reading loads and loads of stuff. I don't have any big lofty quotes much, but I've learned a lot about us and the type of people we are through that reading. And in 2006, a man called Dave Weiner threw this up in a blog post, and it's absolutely fabulous. And I could just say, read that, and I'll go home. And look at, you would have talked on and yammered on for 10 or 15 minutes and probably taught each other way more than any of us. Every stage has maybe a sage on it, but the room is where the expertise is. So maybe adopt that law. Go to his blog. The blog's fantastic. If you're anything into the history of computer and computer education, his blogging is amazing. A bit skeptical and a bit grinchy at times. I'm a Pollyanna. Today I'll be 90% Pollyanna, 10% Grinch, but I love that. I absolutely love it. And it's the foundation of all the, let's say, unconference type of conferencing that CES has been adopting in the last 10 years. And it's one of my guiding principles at the moment, as well as the law of 2 feet. If you don't agree with what I'm doing, away you go. The whole lot of us, we can head out. So, creativity. Look at the first word, creativity. And I said, okay, I was in the last couple of weeks on some, you'll see by the colours on the slides, on some, thought processes about everything. So I just decided I'd throw the kitchen sink, say the word creativity in our CES world, and this is what comes to mind. I'm a science teacher. I taught science for 35 years. And we bet it into the little ones' heads that the law of conservation of mass, energy, matter was nothing could be created or destroyed. And it gave rise to the most fantastic conversations. But miss, of course it can be created or destroyed. And the pencil's there because I think the lovely, of course, the ... is that you just transform it from one form to another. I love the Irish word for transformation, ahrú ó spón, change from the bottom, another CES grassroots thing. It's very good. And then the other quote that I adore it. I love Roger McGough. As a science teacher, 25 years ago, Roger McGough did a series of poems for Channel 4 for a series called The Elements. So we were able to do poetry in chemistry class. Lovely, lovely synergies of creating something in a classroom that maybe couldn't have been there. But he said in The Guardian last year, he's often said it, but it was quoted in The Guardian last year, the children are born as natural poets, and then we iron all the poetry out of them. So they're the 3 grandchildren I own. There's where my DNA has gone, and nobody's going to iron the wrinkles out of those 3, well, over my litigation purposes. And another funny thing happened the other day. We moved house, and out of a box fell, 10 years ago, I was pulling stuff out of magazines to try and show pseudoscience. 10 years ago, I was working in teacher development, and can you actually see what's written in this magazine beside this magic 135 sterling cream from 10 years ago? They won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry, is what they said. But they were saying they had fullerene, the buckyball chemistry inside it. And I thought, gosh, the cost of the fear of wrinkles, 135 sterling for a pot of cream for cosmetic wrinkles. But what's the cost of the fear of wrinkles in our classrooms? You know, do we want to iron all our classes into straight lines and use metrics to make everybody toe the same line and be measured against the same thingy? So that's one thing I thought about creativity. Every slide, there are 5 words, there are 5 slides, but creativity gets 3. Because the other place, the day after Adrienne rang me, this popped up on Twitter. There's a man called Gary Steger. Some of you might know Gary Steger. And what's his Invent to Learn? And Gary he curates, among others, the work of Seymour Papert. And there's Seymour. Look at him. See him there? He's very tiny, but he's here with me. Like one of the few humans in the world who had a Lego model made for him. And that's 1971. 20 things to do with a computer. An incredible document, typed. You could, the link is there, and you can scan it out, and you can see that of the 21 things, we still haven't done. I haven't even done all 21. Number 21 is go do something else, go make something else. And it made me wonder, it's 1971, some people in this room weren't even born. I was in 2nd year in school. And reading the document today resonates. A lot of the words in the document, we'll come back to them in a few minutes when we come to computer. They're the same words we're trying to do at the moment. But the reason I put Cynthia there is Cynthia's 80. So she's the co-author of the document. She's still alive and certainly kicking in Boston. She's lecturing, she writes books, but mostly she goes to volunteer every week at it's like a fab lab, a drop-in centre for youngsters. They train teenagers who then go out and run camps for the summer. So it's just a little shout out for us older, wiser learners, the owls. I learned this wonderful acronym. I'm into acronyms at the moment during the year. So shout out for Cynthia. That's creativity number 2. Creativity number 3, I threw the kitchen sink at this one. I said, okay, what are all the things in the last few years that I have seen, rolled out and offered to us as a group to use creatively, all of which or most of which could be free. And I called it From Glowy to Zoe because starting top left, my thing is working at an elemental level. Anyone who's been at a workshop with me goes away with their little glowy semiconductor work light. But working across from glowy, the ballet shoe, that's my friend Genevieve. She's taken big data, she's taken huge data, weather data, pain data, all sorts of data, and she's running ballet, she's choreographing ballet, and she's programming the costume. 2nd level students doing ballet are incorporating and creating something absolutely mesmerizingly wonderful. because of what Genevieve has seen that she can do with them. In here you might recognise, does anyone remember Photo Story? I had to put it in because it was the first, Microsoft Photo Story was the first really creative free thing that appeared on our computers in school. Do you remember those computers that arrived in the big black and white boxes about 25 years ago? But you discovered that if you could get online, you could use Photo Story, and students could begin to curate their own work just by firing in pictures and talking. Very hard. It was very hard for me to get students to talk to computers in those days, to record themselves. So I said, let's put Photo Story in. Book creator. I don't know if Cormac is here this week. Cormac Cahill? Cormac Cahill is one of our members in Cork. And what Cormac Cahill can do with small students using Book Creator is like Pixar. It's at the level of creativity that you couldn't afford to buy with that. The bunny rabbit's the brand newest one. If you go to John Hegarty to see the wonky rabbit in the middle with the bucky teeth, that's microblocks. A huge number of open source creative materials are being handed to us. So yeah, 2-2. That's fine. So there's Stephen's Skinny Cat, which changed my computer room forever when we discovered that we could stand up and move around and translate our movement, like Jen's ballerinas, into programming. Little Arduino robot. I met Arduino first at Bridge 21. There's Bridge 21 people in the house, and again, whoa! When you could actually take a little rover and control it and send it flying around the floor at your behest. All of these things put you into the law of conservation of mass, matter, energy. You became the creative force that changed something from to the other. Raspberry Pi is there, Python, Ruby. I love Turtle Stitch. That has really changed my life because I'm a crafter. I love to physically have a knitted or crocheted. Someone said to me this morning, are we going to be knitting? I said, no, but if you want to, feel free, we have done it. But my friend Andrea, she's a computer programmer, she's also a crafter. And somewhere in her head, she looked at her sewing machine and said, why can't I hack this? It's electronic. And she did. So she took good old-fashioned Turtle logo and collaborated with people. And now we can open a screen, make a design in Turtle logo, close the screen, put it on a USB stick, stick it into the socket of a sewing machine and stitch out what we want to do. It's like the possibilities are endless. All we're doing is the law of conservation of matter, momentum. We're just changing things from there to there, but with our spark, with that human creative spark. Snap is there. The one you mightn't recognize, you see the red loop with the blue, yellow, green, somewhere around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock? That's called EduBlocks. Go look up EduBlocks. EduBlocks is about 3 years old now. It was written by a 12-year-old boy. He's now 14, open source, block-based Python programming. He did it for himself. He's offered it to the world. A few kind of creepy adults have tried to take it and market it, but it's there. His name is Josh. Look him up. He's all about code, I think is his Twitter handle. So all of the creativity to me comes to its absolute zenith in, if you've seen, has anyone seen Ada the show? There's my phone. I'm a member of Ada's Army because I'm a real fan. Zoe Philpott is an actor She's a computer programmer. So she puts those together. She gets the history of Ada Lovelace. And you go to her show. The first 20 minutes is watching her being dressed into that dress, which has 4,500 growing addressable LEDs inside it. Then she tells you the story of Ada Lovelace by reading from Ada's work or commenting on Ada's work, and it's mind-boggling, the creativity that has gone into that. Now, it's particular to Zoe. She's a very good interpreter, but it's the zenith of the use of what I would say the glowy culture. Then, if students go to her, then they sit down and they do an entire physical computing workshop. If it's ever in Ireland, again, it's been in Ireland 3 times, go and see it or go and find it. So there is no, the only real cost, if you really want to bring creativity, is your own, it's from us. We kind of commit to, on Monday morning, I'm going to try one of these things. Pat Seaver said, does anything up there cost money? Well, Zoe's dress. It's €2,500, 2,500 sterling every time it leaves the lab to go to breathe. But the rest, it's free and it's there. And what it needs is us as that creative turnaround to switch it from one form to another. So I said I had one slide for each item. Creativity got 3 because there's no end to it. And I could just set you off now to discuss with each other what's your thing. But we have to maybe look a little bit more seriously at the collaboration part. And of course, I quickly took the word collaboration and turned it into community, because that's what we're about at the moment. I know I missed last year because of the snow, but I know that Elizabeth and Richard talked about where Ceci had come from and where Ceci's going to. But the way I look at it is, I joined Ceci from afar. I was way up in Cavan in the days when it was offline and things came in envelopes. You got your fabulous newsletter in an envelope with a stamp on it, and communications were slow, but we all knew everybody was there. It was a good thing. I was in another TPN, Teacher Professional Network, another lovely acronym, and the ISTA, the Science Teachers Association, and they both worked the same way. We had membership, we paid fees, we went to meetings, we had to kind of go and find each other around the country. And that's what I would call, say, CESI 1.0. Unbelievable. Like when Seymour Papert and Cynthia were writing that paper, and just after they published it, CESI was born. So it's been there from the beginning of the thought process of where we should be going. Now, CESI 2.0, I think that's where I became active in CESI, where it's funny, Ireland's a funny place. People do things in funny ways, but I was at an AGM, and the one and only Conor Galvin sort of did that thing that fellas used to do at dances long ago. You know, you dancing. Whatever. I got the eyebrow, as only Conor Galvin can do an eyebrow. And it was kind of, it's time for you to step up and get involved and do something. And it did change my life. Within that, we became a virtual community of practice. We just didn't use that word. And that was thanks to John Hegarty. John kind of quietly said one morning, you know, we could be using online for all of this. And we did. And the CESI list was born. I would say we're probably the first TPN to have leveraged all the 21st century communications and saved the Department of Education a fortune. I'd say if you looked at TPN records, we cost nothing, because we started to use, you know, the free and open communication systems that were there. I think Enda put us on to, I think Enda Donlan started CESI tweets and gave away his date of birth in the password. Enda? Someone emailed me for the password about a month ago. Do you know the password to the CESI tweets? I said, yeah, I do. I remember. Sorry, Enda, I'm not going to tell them what it was. That's a bit touchy. This never happens to Christy Moore. I think we use social media very well, and I think we need to maybe bring people in to use it a little bit more. But I'm wondering, I'm loving where we're going now. We're going right full circle. Community of practice is now part of our lexicon. We're actually curating and building a community of practice, which is bringing us right back round to face-to-face meetings. From having gone to using online, which we will still do, because the biggest change in CESI in my time is we've gone from, we didn't have a syllabus. It was our beautiful thing. We were free-range teachers. We could do what we wanted. I'll come back to that in a while. But now we've got computer science coming into primary, junior cycle, and third level. We need to talk to each other and share practice face-to-face. So Richard, who's up there, you can't miss him, he's got red braces. He's curating for us with the support of Google. He's curating meetings around the country where we can actually meet and sit down, which is what teachers kind of like to do. That's why I like the Teach Meet model. Just sit down and chew over, how would you do that? Yeah, but what about the second years? Do you think they're able for this? Could we try whatever? So find your local community of practice and get involved. I don't know where we're going to go, CESI 3.0, with curriculum and assessment. I'm not worried about it, but I'm cautious about it because our new computer science for the Leave Cert subject is a fabulous spec. It's absolutely wonderful. But I just wonder how it will fit the model I worked with for 35 years from my other subject. Say biology would be my Leave Cert subject, where everybody breathed it in together, everybody breathed it out together. We wrote down exactly the same thing. So I'm wishing you, are there any of the Leave Cert computer schools here? I'm wishing you so much love and luck with it. I'm kind of jealous, a little bit jealous, and we'll come back to it when we talk about practice in a few minutes. And I threw in I like keywords. I met the book Keywords, Keywords of the 20th Century, let's say. Community, if you see there in the small print, is the only word that doesn't have a negative version. Of all the social network connecting words, there's no negative connotation to community. Nobody has ever found a community that's a bad thing. Because if it's a bad thing and you think it's a cult, it's not a community. So remember that we're in a good group, and we should, nourish it and cherish it. So sorry for turning collaboration into community, Katie, but it kind of suited my purposes. Now, I'm going back to 1971, and I'm going to do the thing that you should never do to the audience. I'm going to read the slide a little bit to you. I'm going to read what Seymour and Cynthia said in 1971. Why then should computers in school be confined to computing the sum of the squares of the first 20-odd numbers and similar so-called problem-solving uses? That's often one of the first ones that's thrown out. And look at the terminology they're using in 1971. This could have been written 2 years ago, and it would still be pertinent today. And look at the last sentence. How strange then that computers in education, and they call us computerists. I didn't ever hear us being called that before. How strange then that computers in education should so often reduce to, parentheses, using bright new gadgets to teach the same old stuff in thinly disguised versions of the same old way. Now that's a meme that's been going around the internet for the last 5-6 years. And at the risk of being very emotional, that's one of the last tweets Bianca Grogan sent out, our late friend. She had an iPad tweet that she'd found, and it was kind of, boring stuff on an iPad is still boring stuff. So I just keep going back to this 1971 paper and saying it's 2019 and we're still loading that, but we are loading it. Everyone in this room, I'm looking at the faces and I'm going, whoa, I hope this room doesn't kind of float off to sea, because computer education in Ireland is in trouble if it does. I think you are the people who are loading it. I'm retired. I'm gone into kind of contemplative mode, whatever it might be. I don't have, when we get, well, yeah, I know. I don't have a practice per se. I just practice on everyone I meet. But I do like the unicorn. And I have a 5-year-old granddaughter, and yesterday she was home from school because she was sick. And she had an ear infection, so she had to sit one side of me because I can't hear you with the other side. So she sat and she looked at the slides and, yeah, they're nice and they're coloured, and what are you doing? You're going to teach. She thinks when I go to Trinity, I'm going to school, and my class is called the butterfly class because her class in play school was called raccoons. What's yours? I said, we're butterflies. So you go to butterfly class? I'm going to butterfly class. But the best bit was there's a unicorn on my slides, and this is what she homes in on. What's the unicorn for? The unicorn is the symbol of just a tiny, quiet movement. EdTech will not save you. It's boring stuff on an iPad. It's still boring stuff. You, us, me, it's the teacher. That's still we're the catalyst in the law of conservation of everything. We're the ones who take what we want to teach the students and teach it in the best way we can teach it. It's not, if the tech helps. I was asked the other day to sign a thing, what's the very best thing about technology? My answer is invisibility. The more invisible it becomes in the background just working for me, that's my answer. So kerrypinney.com, you can get yourself boned up on EdTech Will Not Save You. And I think if you talk to Katie, you can get a badge. Like, I want. Well, I know if I come home with the unicorn badge, it's not going to last long. She'll take it for me. But just go read that 1971 thing and just action it. Let's go at it. Practitioner, I thought was the weirdest word all my life. Maybe it's because I started teaching really, really young and really, really gormless. Like, we really didn't know what we were doing. You went to school, you went to college, you went back to a classroom and you started doing stuff. But do we call ourselves practitioners? Do we use, like, if you go out the door here and you head back into Athlone, you'll pass a medical practice, you'll pass a dental practice, you'll pass an architectural practice, you'll pass a whatever. Then you'll pass 2 or 3 schools. We don't use it as our term. We say TP when we're training. That's the new cool thing. I'm doing my TP, I'm doing my teaching practice, then I get my job and I'm done. I'm ready for life. And I think it's a word we need to start using more and more and more. We are practitioners. What is my daily practice as a teacher? And our daily practice as teachers in CESI, as CESI teachers for the last 40 years, has been, I put in the double-edged sword because it's been the luck of the draw for our students as to whoever the teacher, the principal threw the IT class at, or whatever it might have been. For me, for 2 years, it was whatever was in my school bag. Whatever tech I had gathered up and had became my practice with the students. Now it's wonderful. There's a lot of good equipment. But the words I used about us, self-directed. I'm looking at all the self-directed people in this room who I know at the moment, particularly for junior science and for Leave Insert and primary, the new stuff we're bringing in. You're directing yourself into that zone. You're learning how to do it, or going to find someone who will teach you. Self-educated, peer-supported. That's what I've got from CESI. Oh my gosh, I have been taught more in the last 10 years by, I could name 14 people here, 40 people here. They're the people who've taught me what I've practiced in the last one. We're kind of free range. You're kind of that weird person in the school who, what are you doing in there? There's a lot of noise. And nobody, if you're not causing any trouble, they leave you alone and let you do it. And our content, and this is the double-edged sword for our students, our content has been very much self-selected, and we put it into our own context. So in one school, it may be all multimedia, wonderful work. In another, it may be physical computing. And I think it's good that the time has come now that we're aligning and giving, hopefully my 3 beauties that I put up there will have a chance to study computer science in school officially. Now, the first one's going into second level school. She didn't get that choice, so I'm on a mission. The smaller ones will, I'm hoping, and I'm hoping that every student gets the equal choice, that there isn't any, CS doesn't fall into any form of digital or gender divide, and it's up to us to police that. But I love the Frere quote, and I love the analogy of the desire line, because CESI has been using, CESI people have been walking desire lines and forging desire lines and flattening desire lines into the grass for 40 years. I keep forgetting the actual year, Elizabeth, 1974, isn't it? 1973. Just after the Papert paper. So there have been a lot of desire lines flattened into the grass by CESI people, and I'm very proud of that, the ones before me and maybe my part in some of it. And that once I threw that thought out on a blog once, and of course here comes Conor Galvin again. He's on my shoulder, he's there, he's whispering in my ear, and he said, that's Frere, we're making the road by walking it. We've walked the road, we're flattening the grass, but now officially we have permission to build a road that everybody can walk together. So I love it, and I think the first things you learned to do when you were a small toddling practitioner in your life were walk and talk. And it's the thing you always remember about your children. When did he walk? When did he talk? Some of your children did one before the other. I might get, isn't that a thing with your kids? She talked when she was 9 months, she walked when she was 2 years, whatever it might be. So I think my call for us is to walk and talk together. And as we walk and talk, I love putting in our little bit of CS thing. Reflect together. Go to your CS meetings. Get on the CESI list. Talk to each other. Find a critical Care Bear friend in the staff room and talk about your practice. And then debug it. Think about it while you're walking and talk together. Debug it and repeat that process again and again. And that scary thing of there'll be a syllabus, there'll be a curriculum. Whatever the SEC brings will be, we don't know. Maybe there's someone in the room who does know. The important thing is what the State Exams Commission brings us with our subjects. But walk and talk together and enjoy our practice, because I've certainly enjoyed the 10 years I have officially talked at you on the committee. And I have one request. This is what I'm up to at the moment. I'm looking at, particularly at TeachMeet as an unconference, professional development, professional learning landscape. I am doing the second slowest PhD in history, because the person who did the slowest one is up in the corner. I feel good. And I have read and read and read every single thing that our tribe and other tribes have thrown up online about our life, our community online together. And although I'm thinking about TeachMeet when I start to construct this with my supervisors and my creative team, but I want you for a few minutes just to do me the favour of think about CESI in there, and you as that pin. Where would you pin your CESI life in that? I'm such a fangirl of 3 Venn diagrams and 2 Venn diagrams, but where would you pin yourself? Is CESI for you, is it your professional development? Is it your teacher learning for your job, your advancement, whatever it might be, to learn stuff for your classroom? Or is it sort of more up in the PLN is on the left on purpose? The PLN, the professional and personal learning network, is it just that kind of free-range part of your life? Or is it the new parlance, community of practice? And I just put in some of the big thinkers around each of those. And the one I'd point you to is a woman from Down Under. She's from New Zealand, she's Kiwi. Tony, where are you? Tony Riley there, yeah. There's good things come from New Zealand. And it's a woman called Anne Wright Webster. She was the one who introduced me to the term OWL, older, wiser learner. I thought it was older, wiser ladies. But anyway, it's older, wiser learner. And Anne was the one who took authentic professional learning into my mind as a theme or a topic. But she also put a beautiful mantra for reflective practice into my mind. And it's called stand back, stand up. Stand back, think about what matters. What am I doing? Why am I doing all of this? And then stand up for it. Now, I only found that and read that last year, but it explained to me why one night, 4 years ago or 3 years ago, in the driving rain, driving home from a teach meet from Maynooth to Cavan, I decided, I think there's something in this old teach meet thing, like why are we all going out on a Friday night in the wet to meet each other and share stuff? So stand back and stand up might be where it is. The other one I love, because I said earlier on, the Irish word for transformation is Ahrú Os Bun, start from the bottom, is Aileen Kennedy. Aileen Kennedy's, there's 2 Kennedys in this world, but Aileen's from Scotland. And her work is around transformational work. And I'm hoping that maybe at this sort of nexus in computer science education in Ireland, where we now have, we've had the good life for 40 years. We had an excuse. We don't have a subject. We actually can't, we can't be held to account for anything. Now we have. We subject at every level, and we're going to get held to account. So just have a look at your perspective, think about it. And I think this is why Katie and the committee put perspective into the theme, because our perspective is about to be changed for us, whether we like it or not. We are now coming into the accountability examinations part of the world. And really, that's it. But I did want to go back to one thing. All science teachers were like this. When we used to talk about the law of conservation of anything, the kids would always say, yeah, but what about things that get lost and disappear? And we'd always use the lost sock, the one sock that got lost. Like, why did, if there's a law of conservation of matter, why did my one sock get lost in the wash? And no more, never again. I have my Google socks. I have Google socks. Thanks to yesterday. Thank you, Claire. So if I lose one sock, I can just ask Google where the other sock is gone. So I just, weird and wonderful things happen in our world. So I'm leave you with the words of nobody, me. The quotes are there, but just do the reflecting thing. Talk to your colleagues. Decide where you are decide where you're standing and stand up for it and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.